What's up, y'all? It's Andrea here at VW Family Farm. We're out here putting out hay for the milk cows. We're about to go back and check the big herd of cows. We had a storm roll through here overnight and got a little rough, so we want to make sure that all the cows are still there. No one got struck by lightning. I wanted to take a few minutes, take you around with us to the cows, and I wanted to share a few things with you. I don't know if you have seen the new movie that's coming out. It's called Homestead. I think it's on the Angel app, possibly. All I have seen is a little trailer of it, and it looks really, really good and really interesting. And it just really got my wheels to turning about the state of our world, basically. The premise of it, there's been some sort of catastrophe. I don't know everything about the movie. Honestly, I can't vouch for it. All I've seen is a trailer. But there's been a catastrophe, and this group of people bands together that has all these different skills, and they form a homestead, basically, where they are growing their own food. They have the whole rest of the world fenced out, basically. They're patrolling and all the things, trying to survive, basically, trying to feed themselves and make it through this situation. Like I said, I have very limited knowledge of the movie, but that's basically, the premise, and it got my wheels to turning. And the clip that I saw, there is someone at the gate that one of the leaders of this homestead knew, like a friend of their family or whatever. And he's there with his wife and kids, and he's wanting in because they have everything going on in there. And outside the fence, outside in the world where everything's fell apart, people are starving and dying and all the things. And inside the homestead, they're growing food, they're working, they've built a community and all the things. And there's two guys standing there inside the gate, and one of them is saying, I knew this guy, I know his wife and kids, and the little kids are standing there and everything. And the other guy that seems to be kind of in charge on the homestead, he's saying, doesn't matter, they don't have any skills that will help us, it's more mouths to feed, we cannot let them in. And the guy that is on the inside of the gate, that is friends with the guy on the outside, says, I'm sorry, man, we can't let you in. And the guy on the outside of the gate says, I'll work, I've got skills. And the guy on the inside said, but literally you just cleaned fireplaces. We don't need someone like that. We need people skilled in survival and growing food and all those types of things. Is that your friend?
My buddy. Sometimes they can be a pain, they're too friendly.
Hey, 29. You're so cute.
That's what you call a milk mustache.
So it got me to thinking, if everything fell apart, what skills do I have that would make someone want me on their team or on their homestead? And what skills do you have? And I'm interested to know, what would you use as criteria to decide if you let someone in or not? So I really got to thinking about myself. I'll start there, and then I'll tell you kind of what I've thought about who I would let in if I was having to make that call. So you might be thinking, well, we've watched you on YouTube for years. Y'all have everything going on. You'd be the person owning the homestead and letting people in. Well, not necessarily. And here's why. One of the biggest lessons I've learned since starting homesteading, farming, this YouTube channel, everything, is you can't do it all alone. No man is an island. And there's only so long that Ben and I, or just me by myself, could keep up. You eventually wear down physically, sometimes mentally and emotionally. It's hard to do all this by yourself. So no, I don't think if something happened that we would be here just thriving and surviving, honestly. It's taken too many people to build where we are today, and I seriously think it would take a lot of people to keep it going, especially if your lives were depending on it. Next thing I've thought about myself in the last few days and thinking about this, I'm not an expert. I do have skills that I have learned and honed and learned from experience here on this farm in the last however many years we've been doing it. Learned by failing. But I am probably what you'd call a jack of all trades, master of none. I know a lot of subjects, a little about each of them. So I know a little about a lot, not a lot about a little. And I think that's something I need to do better at. I think I need to steward well and do with excellence those things that I want to do. I have let gardening kind of slip. I still garden on a pretty big scale, but I could be doing it so much better. And that's one of my goals for this next year, actually. And while I'm not sitting around conspiracy theory, worried about everything collapsing, it's just given me a lot of food for thought about where I'm actually at in my life. And I think if COVID taught us anything, it's that things can collapse. It can happen. It's not some people wearing tinfoil antennas thinking these things up. It really can happen. Shelves can really be empty. You can really be left trying to figure it out on your own. And the government is not coming to save you. Second part of this, and I gave y'all some cute little background, our new little Jersey heifer back there and her mama, is let's say that I was in charge of letting people in. Let's say you were. I want you to think about this and comment down below. How would you decide who gets in? What would be your stipulations? Would they need certain skills? What would be the stipulations? Well, obviously, those who know how to do things are going to be very helpful. So you would have to think in those terms if you were in a survival situation and you were trying to align yourself with people. You'd also have to decide who you weren't letting in. You probably could not take care of everyone that you've ever known. But I will say this, it's just the way that I am, it's the way Ben is. There would be certain people we would take care of just simply because of who they are. They wouldn't have to have any sort of skill or be able to do anything. I mean, my mom is in her 80s and she would be at the top of my list of people in my circle that I would draw close to if things went bad. My kids, same deal. It wouldn't matter what they knew, although my mom knows how to do a lot of things and my kids know how to do a lot of things. But it wouldn't matter if they didn't know one single thing. Not to mention, my mom is and has always been my biggest supporter my entire life. She's positive, she's uplifting, she's lived through things, and she always keeps a positive attitude. And that is just something I've been thinking about, and I think that applies to some of you. Some of you are past the point of doing a whole lot of physical work. But you know what you do have? You, like her, you can be an encourager. You can be there for people. Sometimes my mom is just listening to me ramble and cry when that's what I needed to do. When I've started the market, there's times she's baked cookies and muffins for me because that's what I needed her to do. There are still things you can do. There is a time that you just need encouragement. And so that would be one person I would pick, my mom, just simply because she's an encourager. And I think in hard times, you're going to need that. So that's for somebody that if you feel like you have nothing to give, you do. And some of what you have to give is knowledge. Some of you lived through the Great Depression. I haven't. I don't know how that was. Some of you lived through growing up poor and learning skills simply to survive back in the day. You remember not having electricity and cars and all those things, not having central heat and air. You know how to do without, and that is invaluable. So you do have things to give, even if you don't think you do. So obviously, yes, skills would play into it, but also those who have been there for you. Obviously, my mom, Ben's mom, they're what we have. They would be the first two in the gate. And so I'm curious what you guys think. Who would you be letting in? Family is so important. And I see so many things these days that say, like on Facebook and different places that say, if your family is toxic, you protect your spouse at all costs and your kids, and you keep them away from them and all those things. And while I get it, there's extreme things where, parents, in-laws, whatever, can be seriously toxic and abusive. But I think we're way too quick to label people that these days. And that kind of cheapens it when there really is someone that you have to protect your family from, because it seems like everyone's protecting their family from their parents or their in-laws or whatever the case may be. And I just think that there's just, when it boils down to it, family's what you got, whether it's by blood or what you've chosen as your family. And in a survival situation, I think you're going to want to band together with your inner circle, your family and friends. And then behind that, people with skills that you decide to align yourself with, things like that. This video may be totally off the rails for you guys, but I really just hope it gives you food for thought. What I really hope is this next year, we're going into Christmas and then we'll quickly be approaching 2025. It's the year to decide really who we are and what we want out of what life we have. And if you're kind of like me and you've let some of your passions, like gardening for me, slip, it's kind of been pushed out, get back to it. Hone those skills, not just for a survival situation, although they could come in handy, but for joy and for purpose and for accomplishment. Let's get out of the house if we're able. If we're not, let's use our gifts that we do have, our knowledge, to walk someone through canning, our encouragement to say, hey, I see you and you're doing great. What can I do to help you? Maybe it's just, hey, can I pray for you? Things like that. But I feel like 2025 is a year of growth. And sometimes growth means slowing down and honing in on those things that we do find important. And that's where I'm at. I need to slow down a bit in 25 and get back to the basics. I hope this gave you something to think about. Thanks for spending a few minutes with me. I love and appreciate each and every one of you. And if I don't see you before then, have a very Merry Christmas, and I'll be seeing you soon. God bless.